you have to be motivated. That's why I said that purpose has to be yours. Motivation is something that it's internal. It has to come from, within.
Yeah.
All right. If you're not motivated, if you don't want to do something, or if you don't want something, there's nothing that you can do. Discipline is something that can be taught, because with discipline, sometimes in society, if you're not disciplined, there's a punishment. There's always a consequence to it. Motivation, on the other hand, it's not. There are a lot of people that go through life and they're not motivated, extremely disciplined, but they're not motivated. If I sat there and said, all right, you're not going to get in trouble if you don't do certain things, how much, they're probably going to stop doing their disciplined stuff.
Welcome to the CoachMD podcast. I'm Dr. Charles Glassman, bringing you 3 decades of experience as a physician and a coach. Join us as we navigate the maze of medical advice with real-life stories, empowering you to take charge of your health. In our That Happens segment, guests share transformative experiences, reminding us that we're all human and not just patients. So get ready for a journey into healthcare reimagined, where empowerment and discovery pave the way. Hey, it's Dr. Charles, aka Coach MD. In my over 30 years of medical practice, I made it my goal to help people create a strong mind, a healthy body, and an unshakable spirit. And that's why I created this podcast, the Coach MD podcast, to bring to you people who have taken it upon themselves to live total wellness, the balance of mind, body, and spirit, and understanding the importance that all those 3 components have. And sometimes we have to, as people and as patients, as kind of self-patients, have to learn how to deal and manage and navigate the healthcare ourselves and our own wellness. And I love to talk with people who kind of have found ways to really create a fulfilling life. And again, by doing that, it always takes a balance of mind, body, spirit. My guest today is Trunnis Goggins, and Trunnis is author, an educator, just a symbol of motivation, and somebody who understands how the balance is so important with mind, body, and spirit. And Trunnis will tell us a little bit about those things. But welcome to Coach MD podcast, Trunnis. So great to have you here today.
Thank you for having me, Charles. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Mhm.
if you could, I talked a lot about mindset. You kind of have a famous last name, okay? That the people know, and your brother David.
Mhm.
But you, in your own right, have a lot of really inspiring messages. Not that he doesn't, obviously, but I
Absolutely not.
definitely want to talk to you a bit about, you know, how brothers from the same family, the same upbringing, kind of have this dedication to bringing out to the world, to helping the world, elevate the world, and the mindset in the world. Does that did that come from something in your childhood, your upbringing? Your How did that passion, and we're going to talk about the passion stuff in a little bit too, but how did that start for you?
We David and I both, we were blessed with mentors. Okay. And I'm not talking like just mentors in our family. They were mentors to our family. My father, my grandfathers,
Mhm.
both of them, on my mother's side, my father's side. They were all 3 of those men. They really did give back through knowledge,
Mm.
through dedication to their communities. My father's father was a minister back in Buffalo, New York. And as a little kid, my brother and I would spend the night at my grandfather's house on Saturday nights. We would watch, and it's funny. My grandfather hated TV when my father was growing up. He thought it was the devil, but he loved the Love Boat. So on Saturday nights, me and my brother would sit and watch Love Boat. After Love Boat was over, we'd go to bed. We'd get up the next morning, and my grandfather would drive through the city of Buffalo, through the east side of Buffalo, and he would go in his van and he would pick up kids who could not get
Wow.
to church, and he would pick them up. And I mean, he had a 15 passenger van. That van was, and Buffalo is a cold place, you know that. but
Yeah.
that van was horrible in the morning because I mean, it took forever to start it up,
Right.
and it took even longer. By the time we got to church, it was cold again. The van warmed up, but we've already been in the van for 2 hours driving around picking people up. But that's what my grandfather would do. My father owned a skating rink, and there were a lot of kids that came to my father, and actually, my father was their father figure.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so my father and a lot of people would sit there. If I go to Buffalo today, I'll be in Buffalo in a couple of weeks for an event in Buffalo. And they used to say, man, he was like my dad. They would actually call
Wow.
me. There are people that still call me their brother. I'm 53 years old, and all I did was skate with them, but they call me a brother because of that. And then my grandfather on my mother's side, he spent 35 years in the United States, I'm sorry, Air Force. He was actually in the Army Air Corps when it first
Mm.
started, and it turned into the Air Force. And in his time, there were people, and they were from Brazil, Indiana, a small town in Indiana outside of Terre Haute, about 15 miles east of Terre Haute.
Mm.
And there were people in that town who would join the military. And so they'd go to the recruiter's office, join the military, and before they even told their parents that they had enlisted, they would stop at my grandfather's house
Wow.
because he
Oh,
was
I love
such
that.
an influence. So my brother and I, you know, we feel that it's an obligation for us to do the same. My brother spent time in the United States Navy. I did too. My brother actually retired from the Navy, but he inspired and trained our SEALs today. A
Mm.
lot of them were trained by my brother. And on the other side, I'm a college professor, and I love it. I love watching and giving back. It is one of the greatest feelings in the world when you see someone that you taught and you saw them when they're raw, you know,
Yeah.
and then they go out and they achieve their goals and they serve their mission, and they still, it might have been something that was said by me that I forgot I even said it, that changed their life, and I love that feeling.
Yeah. Wow.
Mhm.
I love that because, it's a healthy mind is, I mean, that's what drives us, our brain, our mind, our thinking. And without that guidance, some children just don't have that guidance. And the fatherly guidance is so important. Obviously, motherly love and guidance is important, but there's something about the fatherly guidance. And you talk about the love boat, and I could see why your grandfather loved that show. I mean, I could hear the jingle now, the intro song when you mentioned it, because
Mm.
there, a lot of times money, health, and relationships are kind of the triad that, as adults, can either destroy you or elevate you. And relationships, I think, even most, well, health obviously is important, but they're all important. But relationships, and especially having a strong relationships, and if you don't have it at home, finding mentors. And you mentioned, educating, and I was listening to one of your podcasts, and you were talking about how you went into prisons and and helped them kind of uh, rethink and have some redemption in their lives of. And I think that it kind of segues on something I just watched. There's a Netflix video, a Netflix series now called Unlocked, where there was
Mhm.
a sheriff in Arkansas who, in one of the prisons, wanted to do an experiment where he had the prisoners on this one cell block in the prison. He would they were a 23-1 prison, so they were in their cells for 23 hours
Wow.
and out of their cells for 1 hour. He flipped it, so he had no locks on the doors, and they did this for about 2 months. And obviously, it was up and down, but it was a very
Right.
interesting. And so obviously those people who are in jail are very sick, and I'm not just saying physically sick, they're spiritually sick. They're sick, they're drained from life. And when I was listening to your podcast, I didn't listen to all of it, but you were talking about how you went in and how you talked about redemption. If you could just talk a little bit about that, because I thought that's a fascinating concept.
Well, I will say, here's the thing about prisons in general. You're not locking up the person who is just, you're not only locking up, I should say, the person who did the crime, you are locking up generations.
Yeah.
Um, what really inspires me about going into prisons, and I'm going to answer your question about redemption here in a second, is my daughter was murdered
Oh
on the
man, I'm
streets of
so sorry.
Indianapolis back in 2015.
Oh my goodness.
She was shot as she was trying to break up a fight. Um, you know, whatever. I mean, it's just bad. The person who did it has not been caught yet. We're working to make sure that that will be done one day. It's been 9 years, but
Mm,
um, anyway, the person who was arrested initially for this crime, uh, his father, now this kid was 14 years old,
mm.
okay? His father just 5 days, I'm sorry, excuse me, it was 7 days before my daughter was killed. 7 days before my daughter was killed, this kid's father was sentenced to 99 years in
Oh
prison,
wow. Wow.
and he was sentenced for murder.
Wow.
So the kid who did, or the kid that they arrested, all right, imagine losing or having to witness that type of loss.
Mm, yeah.
Okay, imagine. So what happens is and again, this kid, I'm not ever going to paint this kid as a good kid. He probably did not was not the person who killed my daughter. We've had some things, and we think we know who did it, and we'll probably get to it. But the um the person who did this actually is now still living a life of crime.
Mm,
This
yeah.
kid is now in his 20s. He's 23, 24 years old now. He's been in and out of prison every single year since this has happened. Every year.
Mm,
And it's because that's going on. So the reason why I go into prisons is because, number one, I do believe in redemption,
yeah.
and number two, I also believe that if we could stop the cycle, okay, or at least stop the bleeding in the
Yeah.
cycle,
Yeah.
okay, this is good. This can help. So when I go into the prisons, I go back, and this is where my four P's come in. And I wrote the book, and it actually did start from this prison
Mm,
teaching. I walked in, first time I walked into the prison, I said, I walked into class. This is about, and I've been teaching for years, and this was about maybe 2.5, 3 years ago. And I walked in and I said, all right, listen, what are you going to do when you get out of prison? First thing you're going to do when you get out of prison. Man, I heard I'm going to Chick-fil-A. I heard I'm going to the movies. I heard I'm doing, I'm going
right.
to the mall and go shopping. I heard all this stuff. I'm going to see my daughter for the first time. I mean, that stuff. Okay. Um, and then I said, okay, great. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
And there was dead silence.
Wow. Yeah.
And I was sitting there waiting. I was like, and what do you mean? I just told you I was going to. I said, no, that's not what you're going to do. You're going to go to, I'm going to go to Chick-fil-A after I get out of here. Okay. And then I'm going to go and do something else. But what are you going to do? What if you were to die after you got out of prison? What do you want on your tombstone?
Yeah.
Tombstone. Dead silence.
Wow.
And I said, as long as you do not know what you're going to do, you're in prison. Because what happens is people tell you what you're going to do. And so I left, and we went on this thing, and we started this big planning thing and all this other stuff, and we started it. And I got in my car driving back to the hotel, and I was like, you know what? If I were to walk down the street and go to any individual on the street and ask them the same questions I asked those guys in prison, I'll probably get the same response.
Yeah.
There are a lot of us out here that are doing stuff, but we're not doing anything.
Yeah. Love it. Yeah.
Okay? We're not doing anything. And then when we are about ready to die and we are laying on our deathbed, or we are at the end when we've retired doing something, or we can't work anymore or whatever, then it's then that we have our regrets because now we know what we want to do and we're too old or it's too late to do it.
Yeah.
And so the reason for this book is to make sure that people understand their purpose, understand themselves. And so that's where that came from.
Yeah, wow. As a doctor, there are really two reasons that I found over the years why people come into my office. And it's either lifestyle choices or emotional instability or emotional issues. And the emotional is really what you're talking about. People who really are lost, who are sad. And when I say money, health, and relationships, I mean really being lost. It's very difficult to take care of yourself financially, especially in this day and age, okay, or to keep relationships steady, or even to keep your health. So if you could go into because I love it. I mean, this is really, as we were chatting earlier, um, I love to meet like-minded people. People who really see that our life is so much richer. There's so much out there. It's so colorful, our life, if we only open our eyes and understand, the gifts and talents that we're born with, and learn how to tap into it. So tell us a little bit about your book and the four P's, what they stand for, how that's working into your work, that's going into your work right now.
Well, the book is the four P's of you, and those four P's. I'm a business professor by trade, and you have the four P's by of marketing, right? And I don't have to go over those, price, production, price, product, all that other stuff. The four P's of you is a little different. It's a play on words, but it's purpose, planning, passion, and persistence. Okay, going about what you want. If you want to look at it from a business aspect, it's your mission. It's your mission statement right there,
Mhm.
my purpose in life. So in other words, when I was telling you about what do you want on your tombstone, when you die, there's an over, it doesn't matter, you could be your work people that come visit you, your family members, your friends come visit you, and it doesn't matter what realm you're in, there's a common theme. That's your purpose. Everybody knows, they know a different part of you, but there's always a common theme because that's always
Mhm.
your purpose. Then it's planning. Planning is essential to achieve your purpose. And when I talk about planning, my dissertation, right, when I got my doctorate, was on strategic planning. And so I kind of use some of those concepts,
Mm.
okay, because you can plan strategically with your life, and if you did that, you're living intentionally. You're not you're not living your life in a bubble. For every action you make, there's a reaction, and so on and so forth. The other thing is passion. Now, passion really goes with purpose, because if the purpose is not yours, it's like, for example, you're a doctor. You told me about what your son is doing in life. Your son, if your son becomes a doctor because dad was a doctor,
Right.
okay, now he might really love dad and wants to make sure that dad is happy because they achieved
Mm.
and they followed their tradition. But he may deep down inside want to be a teacher. Okay. So when chips go down, and being a doctor is a hard job. Okay.
Yeah.
When there's something that he has to go through,
Mm.
because we all go through that passion, the level of passion.
Mm.
Maybe while you're around, the level of passion's high because he wants to impress dad. But if you're no longer around, okay, or there's a falling out or whatever, then that passion's gone. So guess what? He wasted his time as a doctor.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay. Now that's where persistence comes in. Okay. Because if you have a high level of passion and you're passionate about your purpose, when the chips go down, you're going to do it. I always tell people I'm 53 years old and I still play hockey. Okay. Matter of fact, I play. I mean, there are a couple weekends out there where I'll actually play a hockey game because I'm in a beer league, and then after that, the weekend, my beer league's on Thursday night, and then I'll have a weekend tournament somewhere, and I end up playing like maybe 5 or 6 games in 4 days.
Wow.
That's more than the NHL does, and I'm
Yeah.
53, right? And I don't get paid the dollars that they get. That sucks. But
Right.
anyway, it actually doesn't. So, I mean, me, I just told you I could play 6 games in a 4 days time period, have no problem doing it. Okay, because I am very passionate about the sport
Yeah.
of hockey. And at 53 years old, you're going to hurt, and you get up like, oh my God, I got to do this again, but I can't wait. And you're sore after it's done, right?
Mm.
But if you told me right now, hey, let's go to Pebble Beach and we're going to go from Friday all the way to Sunday and we're going to do nothing but play golf, I'm going to be like, no,
Right.
I'm not going to stand outside. I'm not going to sit there and walk around and do all that. And physically, it's more physically demanding on your body to play hockey than it is to
Right.
play golf.
Right. Right.
But I'm not going to do it because I
Right.
don't have that persistence. I would start complaining about anything in the world. Oh, my feet hurt. Oh my gosh, why is it so hot? Or why can't we have anything to drink? And that's the thing, because I don't have that passion for golf. All right.
Right.
I have that passion for hockey. That's my quote unquote. And I don't want to say that's my purpose because that it's not. Because if you ever see me play at 53, you'll know that's definitely not my purpose. At least
Right.
that's not
Right.
where I'm supposed to be. And so that's the thing. So that's how those 4 P's come together. But then I have a final chapter that deals with peace. And
Mm.
as much as I talk about driving
Mm.
and following your goals and doing all that other stuff, you need a chance to unwind.
Yeah.
You need to go somewhere. Sometimes and a lot of times you need to be on your own, just so you can kind of recharge and make sure that you're like you're talking about your mindset and you're healthy. And so those are the 4 P's.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And the purpose, a lot of people just don't. Yeah, they feel lost in their life. Oh, what's my purpose? They try to search for it. And I find one way, and you could talk to this a little bit, um, is kind of recognizing what you're good at. What kind of what God gave you, the tools that God gave you that you were born
Mhm.
with, and um, because look, I mean, your career is not as a hockey player, right? So
Right.
when you were younger, you might have said, "Oh, my purpose, I'm going to be a hockey player." But God didn't give you the skills to be a professional hockey player to
Right.
enjoy it and play like that. And is there like how do you help people who just are kind of floundering, whatever, and don't really know how do you is there a way that they can find the purpose? Because I know once people do,
Mhm.
it it just drives it makes you so much happier, it makes you so much more joyful, and it makes you feel and really internally, I think changes happen to your cells in your body that will keep you healthier. So, what do you advise for that sort of thing?
I talk to people when they always say, well, it was easy for you. No, it was not easy for me. But what I do say to people is think about all the things that bring a smile to your face.
Mm,
That naturally, when you talk about it, it brings a smile to your face. And I mean, you could already be good at doing it, but you could get better and you want to get better. And that's what you want to do. You want to make sure that everything you do, when you talk about it, like for example, when you talk about my kids, it brings a smile to my face.
yeah,
All
yeah.
right. Now, let me tell you about this. Do they make me happy every day? No, they do
Right.
not. All right. But it brings me joy,
Yeah.
and that's long lasting. I was talking to somebody about a career, and this guy goes, you know what? And he was going to college, getting ready to get a business degree and things like that, and we started talking about cars, and
Wow.
his face lit up. I mean, his face just lit up, and he was talking about, I love going in the garage and tinkering my car and da 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 da. And I took this class one time, and I was like, then why in the hell are you getting a business degree?
Yeah.
Because you are going to be miserable. Why don't you go? I said, and we need them anyway. Get ASE certified. You can go to BMW. This is down here in the Greenville area, South Carolina. I said you can go, you can get certified. There are classes that BMW teaches where you can and make great money doing this. He goes,
Yeah.
really? I said you can probably make more money if you do a 6-week course at BMW. You can probably make more money than a 4-year degree at what the field that you're doing right now. Do you know what? I did talk him, and as a college professor, that's the worst thing you want to do. But I wanted this guy to have a good joy in life.
Yeah.
He actually did enroll in that program.
Wow.
And he says that's the best thing I've ever done in my life.
Wow.
Because that's the thing. When you are in a profession or you are in a part of life, let's talk about profession. If you're in a profession that when you get paid, you feel like you're stealing somebody's money,
Yeah.
okay? All right. And you're not. All right. Make sure you're not
Right,
stealing it.
right,
Or you
right.
feel like you're stealing it. All right. Like I
Right,
would
right,
do this
right.
for free. All right. You're in the place that you want to be. You're serving your purpose. And the same thing in your personal life. I mean, if you are sitting, there are a lot of people that don't move forward because, oh my gosh, I live in such and such city and I hate living here. All right. Where have you gone where when you left, you almost cried because you really felt like that was your connection?
Mm.
All right, go there. Go there. I will say this right now. I'm a Buffalonian. I'll be a Buffalonian for life. Okay. But I love coming back to Carolinas.
Yeah.
When I'm in the Carolinas, I'm at home.
Yeah.
I'm at home. I love this area. It's great. I live in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm close to South Carolina. I'm still close. A lot of my kids, some of my kids live in Kentucky and they've all grown up. They live in Indiana.
Mhm.
And I'm like, I love seeing them, but I'll tell you, yeah, I really do. Come down here. I
Yeah.
just feel like this is home.
Beautiful
Okay.
area.
It is.
Smoky
And there's a
Mountains right there,
Oh
and
yeah, absolutely. Literally bears in the backyard.
yeah.
But I mean, that's home. And so when you talk to people about purpose, I don't talk about things that make people happy. If you're looking for happiness, happiness is fleeting.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm happy, the Buffalo Bills, love them to death. The Bills on Sunday, one Sunday they win a game. I am super happy.
Right, right,
The
right.
very next day, being
Right.
from Buffalo, this happens with all your sports teams. The very next week, you are going to be mad.
Yeah.
Okay. However, the Bills still bring me joy. I cannot wait for, I don't know why, but I can't wait for September when the first kickoff because I'm all happy again. And
Yeah.
and I can't wait till October because then the Sabres are on and I'm all happy again. But that's a problem. Maybe you don't want to take my advice from that because I'm a Sabres and Bills fan.
Right.
But that's what I mean. And so when you want to find your purpose, you just have to find what makes you joyful.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I know, just, knowing from my dealing with the public, with the people coming into my office, patients over the years, you know, s- um, again, people get sick, they just get sick of life, and which is very sad. And it's not only a physically sick, well, it manifests itself in the physical. So what, and I'd like to hear your take on this because, the way I used to talk with people who used to be, let's say, in a job that they felt was kind of a dead end job, but it was paying the bills. They were there for years and years and years. They just can't leave it because they have a mortgage, they have expenses, but they're in that job. And I used to talk to them, talk to people and try to help them find those little victories in their daily life, whether it's at their job or if it's or out of their job. Is there anything that you would applying the 4 Ps to that kind of situation when somebody's just kind of going through life, going through the motions, uh, and just just not feeling that because again, as I said, lifestyle choices and emotional issues are what bring people to me, and this kind of living kind of embraces both. You make bad lifestyle choices because of it, and it puts you in a funk. So how would you kind of guide that
You
person?
know, speaking about being a doctor,
Yeah.
you are a medical doctor, all right? One time, and I am a disabled vet, not because I did anything heroic, it's because I ran into a pothole while I was running and I broke my foot.
Okay.
Okay. So I broke my foot. And when I broke it, they just gave me like this little moccasin shoe and said it'll be okay after a while. What it didn't, and it grew crooked.
Oh wow.
So my bone didn't grow right. So what they had to do, okay, and I was very uncomfortable. Could I live the rest of my life in that uncomfortable state? Yeah. And when I did run, I used to get stress fractures and all that other stuff because, again, my foot was out of whack.
Wow.
What they had to do in order to fix it, they literally had to take me in and break my foot again. They put a metal rod, it grew right and it's straight. And now, like I said, I haven't had an issue with it since. Okay. If you are in a place in life where, and this is a very hard thing because I'm going to tell you, after they broke my foot, I it was about 8 weeks of total. The
Yeah.
first couple
Oh
days were
yeah,
like
that's the
total
worst.
pain,
Yeah.
and then after that it was you I was uncomfortable for about maybe 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah.
What you are going to have to do in order to make yourself better is you are going to have to put yourself in a very uncomfortable situation.
Mm,
And that means, you know what? I'm in a job that I hate. I'm not telling you to just go ahead and quit, collect unemployment, and call it a day. It has to be a very strategic and a very timed and a very smooth transition to make sure that you go through this and you go through it successfully. But back in 2019, I was a part of the chancellor's cabinet of the largest community college system in the country.
wow.
All right. I hated it.
Oof.
I got up in the morning saying, just hit me with the, can I get hit by a
Right.
bus? Can something happen? I hated it because my purpose, I was serving my purpose in education, so to speak, but I wasn't serving my true purpose.
Yeah.
What I really wanted to do is what I'm doing now, being with the students, not coming up with administrative policy, okay? Not putting together programs like that. I wanted to see that result. Like I said, I come from that. Those are the men that I was around. They
Mhm.
had direct impact, right? I wasn't getting that. I wanted to write books. I couldn't write books because I was working 190 hours a week. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Even
Yep.
though it's not 190 hours in a week, but I'm
No.
just saying, I'm sure they found some.
Right.
Um, but anyway, I was miserable, but I was making really good money.
Mm,
You know what I did? I sat back and I said, you know what? I could do this for the rest of my life and I can retire here in a couple years. I'll be good to go. But again, I'm going to be sitting somewhere one day, really, really upset that I didn't do what I wanted to do.
mm,
So what I did was intentionally, this is in 2019, I got uncomfortable. And I did. I left my job and started and went right back to being an instructor.
wow.
I went from vice chancellor's cabinet to instructor.
Mm,
And that is a heck of a pay cut. All right.
yeah.
And I did that. And I did that at a time when, and I will say this right now, here I am today, almost 5 years later. Okay. And I am feeling phenomenal.
Wow. That's great.
But there was a chance, again, I had
Yeah.
to metaphorically break the foot
Yeah.
in order for it to heal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Okay. And
great. Yeah.
that's the thing.
Yeah, no, that's a great analogy. And yeah, that's advice that that I think is really great. How you said, look, don't quit your day job necessarily yet. Identify your purpose, your passion, but the two P's that you talked about, the planning and the perseverance. So you got to plan it out, okay? And so many, it's unfortunate, but we think that you go to your job, you come home, you kick up your legs, you watch some television, you go to sleep, whatever. There's a lot of hours in a day that really go by that you can really enjoy um, planning, doing your next move, that you're really giving it up and saying you're just too tired, because once you start planning your new move, maybe start studying, maybe take an online course, maybe uh, um, do whatever you want to move you in that direction, and you do it slowly, or even uh, you can have multiple streams of income. I mean, it takes so the discomfort that you're talking about doesn't necessarily mean a dead stop, but it might
Mhm.
mean putting in extra hours doing something else that might start moving you in that direction. And I think that's so important, that it's great that you made that move, because my experience, when people don't make that move, when they're feeling so viscerally affected by what they're going through, it
Mhm.
always ends up with something physical, and they come and see me, and most doctors will just give you a pill. Okay, here's your blood pressure medication,
Yep.
or whatever, or something worse, and not really getting to the core of that. So yeah, I love that, and how you kind of brought it back to your mentors growing up, and
Mhm.
how you you teaching people. There's a great saying that once that I heard, that um, in order to learn, you must be taught. In order to master, you must teach. And
Absolutely.
I always love that, right?
It
Because
is.
you're
It's
doing
awesome.
that. You're talking about this kind of stuff, but the more you teach it, the more you're a master of it.
Mhm. Absolutely. You're right.
Yeah, no, I really love that. So, yeah, Trunnis, it's really great that the work that you're doing. You have your book, you have your podcast, your teaching. It's really going toward that mindset that is so important. And maybe comment a little bit about. I've been hearing a lot about this, the difference between motivation and discipline. Do you have a distinction between uh, that when you hear that? Because I know that motivation is great; it lifts you up, it gets you happy. But the planning and the persistence part of your P's takes discipline,
Yeah.
and rather than motivation. If you can maybe talk a little bit about that.
That goes back to the purpose.
Yeah,
Okay. Like right now, I mean, you have to be motivated. That's why I said that purpose has to be yours.
yeah,
Um, I was sitting there talking to somebody one day and said, "Hey, if you if I said I'm going to give a gift card to everybody for Dairy Queen if they pass my test, right? So I'm going to give everybody a discount. Well, there might be some people that don't like Dairy Queen in my class. Is that going to motivate them to do well in my class? Probably not,
right,
because I don't care if it's $1,000 gift certificate to Dairy Queen. If I can't sell it out, if I can't sell it, I don't want it. You know, and so motivation is something that it's internal. It has to come from within.
yeah,
All right. If you're not motivated, if you don't want to do something, or if you don't want something, there's nothing that you can do. Discipline is something that can be taught. All right, isn't it can be instilled. If again, I can instill discipline in you. I mean, if you look at the military, if you look
yeah,
at any type of system like that, I can instill it, because with discipline, sometimes with discipline in certain time in society, if you're not disciplined, there's a punishment. All
yeah,
right. And like, for example, if I decide right now I'm going to stop making my mortgage payment,
yeah,
what's the punishment? I'm not going to have a place to live.
right,
All right. So you have to be disciplined to make sure that that bill is paid on time. So discipline is taught. It's there's always a consequence to it. Motivation, on the other hand, it's not.
mm,
There are a lot of people that go through life and they're not motivated, extremely disciplined, but they're not motivated.
mm,
And I know that sounds like, well, give me an example. There's tons of those. I mean, there are people out there right now that are doing things because I don't want to get in trouble.
Right. Yes.
you
Good
know?
point.
Uh,
Great example.
and that's why, they're not motivated to do it. If I sat there and said, all right, you're not going to get in trouble if you don't do certain things, how much, they're probably going to stop doing their disciplined stuff. If I were to tell you right now, you can, like, I love sweets, right?
Right.
If I were to tell you right now, you can eat all the lemon meringue pie in the world. I love lemon meringue pie.
Yeah.
If I can eat all the lemon meringue pie in the world and I can never get fat,
Right.
okay, dude, I am eating all the lemon meringue pie I can.
Yeah.
All right. But I love lemon meringue pie, but I have to be disciplined.
Yeah.
Instead of getting that second piece, I just have to slow down and eat the first piece that I have very slow. Okay.
Right.
And then that way I can enjoy it for a longer period of time instead of getting that second piece. Because I know that if I do eat two pieces of lemon meringue pie, all right, at 53 years old, there's a very good chance I'm going to stand on the scale here in about 3 or 4 days and I have a
Right.
problem. And at my age too, and with my family history, I could have another problem when it comes to other medical ailments.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the thing. So, right.
Yeah. That was great. Do you and your brother ever trade, trade, messages or trade? Are you guys close? Or you?
We went a long time where we were not. I was raised by my father, he was raised by our mother,
Oh, wow.
and we went for 20 years. And now we're extremely close.
Oh, that's great.
We are very close. We do exchange things, and even though it's funny that there was the three men in our lives, our two grandfathers and our father, and I will say, and the one woman in our life, our mother,
Mm.
really influenced us in the way we are now. And even though we grew up literally 500 and some odd miles away,
Wow.
okay, I grew up in Buffalo, he grew up in Indiana, but there's a lot of similarities. And it's funny that there's a verse in the Bible, and I forgot where it was. It says, "Train your child in the way they should go, and they will not depart far from it."
Mm.
And that is a true statement. We were trained. We had this. There was an overlying philosophy, and when we got older and we realized, who we were, we stuck. We're together
Wow.
now.
That's great. And that's a testimony to, the family, even though it broke up, that you had a core family and family values. And that's why it's so important that people, be responsible. Young men, especially young men, be responsible. And look, we have an animal nature, and our animal nature pushes us, to procreate. And that's where the discipline comes in, because you
Right.
really have to understand that how lives, generations can be affected if you're not responsible. And to, if you're going to have a child with a woman, that's going to be your woman, as or that's going to be your child. I mean, and you're going to
Right.
be involved in that child's life. So I think that's a great, that you two are together. And back your brotherhood is more connected, but you had that
Absolutely.
foundation, and that's what,
Hmm.
yeah, that's great. So,
Hmm.
yeah, Trunnis, is there anything else, before we end, that you'd like to share or, tell us about? That, you said you're going to be in Buffalo, for a conference in a few months.
Yes, I'll be at a leadership conference on June 1st. It is a Christian leadership conference, and it's going to be a fantastic. I'll send you the information. You can put
Please
it in the
do. Yeah.
podcast notes. Yeah, it's going to be a great one. It's actually it's Christian counseling, so it's really a cool conference that's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I actually had on my, podcast, a woman, who's a Christian counselor. That was a couple months ago. So, yeah, that's great. And bringing faith into that into people's life, and helping them merge life and with the mindset is really, really important. So, Tunis, yeah, I feel privileged to have you on my show today. And, I can't wait to share it. And, thanks for coming on. And To everybody out there, listen to what Trunnis has to say about the 4 Ps, and look at his book and his podcast. There's going to be links in the description of this podcast. And until next time, I'm Dr. Charles, aka Coach MD, urging you to stay strong in mind, in body, and most importantly, in soul. Bye for now.